Welcome to CURES, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness. And today's topic is a little bit more practical, but useful. How do you come up with a good comeback for those rude relatives who say the wrong thing at holiday gatherings? Do you just sit, turn the other cheek, fight back, or what? Psychologist Dr. Saunders is here to help us do the right thing and preserve our own well-being during the holidays. Welcome, doctor.
Thanks for having me, Kara.
Yeah, this is something that I think a lot of people were, there's so many mixed emotions because people are excited to gather again, but then they're going to have to deal with folks who have those off-the-cuff comments that can be so irritating, right?
Yeah, so there's all different kinds of families. And, you know, some families, they have large extended families, they want to get together over the holidays, but you may not see some of these people for months and months at a time. Because of the pandemic last year, a lot of people didn't gather. So you might be seeing people that you have not seen for an extended period of time. While I would like to believe that people say things with the best of intentions, I really do like to believe people do things with the best of intentions. However, oftentimes people don't always think things through before they say them out loud. They don't think about what they're saying and how it could impact the other person. For example, looks like you've gained some weight. Oh wow, you did pick up the freshman 15, or oh my goodness, you haven't lost that baby weight yet, and your baby's 2 years old, right? So these kind of comments can really sting.
Yeah.
And especially if you have any type of disordered eating, it could certainly be triggering. And it's not uncommon for new moms or moms to get a comment about their postpartum bodies. It's okay to set a limit. Okay. I always recommend making an I statement, right? I feel hurt by that statement. I do my best to stay healthy. Well, I don't know, and I don't care what my weight is. I don't weigh myself. I mean, whatever it is, but come up with some sort of standard comments, things that you can say to set a boundary around your own self-worth.
Yeah, and so this is where you say the preparation really matters, because we really can't control how other people are going to react at these holiday gatherings. But if you know that someone's always going to get under your skin and you just don't want to have a big blowout, then you prep, you think what they might say, and have your comment ready.
Yeah, I do encourage people to have a few standard lines, because people are going to get in uncomfortable situations, right? So you have to figure out a way to exit. It might be a statement. It might be, oh, I'm going to go help in the kitchen, or excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom, whatever it is, a way to exit, right? And conversely, someone could be saying, oh my goodness, you've lost weight. You look so skinny. Now, we don't know what someone's circumstance is. Maybe they have a health issue. Maybe there's something. So, you know, saying something back like, I know you mean well, but any comments about my body make me feel uncomfortable. So again, it's just having a kind of semi-prepared statement in your head and using it. The reality is you often know which are the relatives that will make these comments. And so you know to be prepared for them.
Right. And another one, drinking, right? Drinking is part of so many holiday gatherings, but maybe you've given up drinking, or you're not doing it anymore, or you're pregnant and you're not ready to tell it. So you say sometimes people will come up and say, oh, why aren't you drinking? Don't you want another drink? How do you handle that?
Right. So again, people are commenting on your behavior, and I think that they're well-intentioned, right? You know, oh my goodness, I see you're not drinking. Are you pregnant? Right? Oh, don't you just want one drink? You know, maybe just one drink will loosen you up a little bit. People give up drinking or don't drink for events for all sorts of reasons, for health reasons, for emotional reasons, and it's okay. Stick to your guns, stick to your self-worth if that's what you feel is important for you. And have a comeback. You know, I actually can have a great time even without drinking. Or, you know, I've decided to give up alcohol for the holidays just so I can feel better about myself. Whatever the comment is, have it, share it, because it's also practice in creating boundaries around yourself. And it's a little bit of a clapback, because you don't necessarily want people commenting on your on your behavior, or because it often in those situations it does have a negative tone.
Yeah, yeah. And respectfully answering versus getting into some fight about it or saying running off crying, that's only going to make things worse. So having that comeback is just going to make you feel a little bit better. And then I often think people who are skilled at this, they turn it back on the other person. They briefly say something and say, and how's your life going? Or like, is that a technique too? Just put it right back, let them talk about themselves?
Yes. So asking, flipping the script and asking a question back to them. I'm not really comfortable talking about myself, but how are you doing? I haven't seen you since the summer. How has your fall been? Right. Turning it right back onto them. And then if you don't even want to talk with them, allowing them to answer and then exiting. So doing something that really allows you to take the focus off yourself if that's what's making you uncomfortable. But in these gatherings, just having a few prepared lines for yourself. If you're something's different about you and someone might comment, just have something. The other thing is not to over personalize it, because over personalizing it just makes you feel worse about yourself. So sometimes people just make comments that they come off as rude, but they are just overly direct and they just don't think. So really try not to personalize it. Think it's more about them than it is about you.
Yeah, another one that people get a lot that people think are, especially if it's a grandparent or maybe your own parents, they might think they have a right to say this. Oh, when are you going to finally settle down and get married? Or when are you guys going to have that baby?
Right. When are you going to find a partner? When are you going to have a baby? Why aren't you married yet? And again, I think those are generally well-intentioned, but they make people uncomfortable, right? So just having some comments. We're really happy being a couple. We're enjoying ourselves as a couple right now. But I'll be sure to let you know when my status changes. Or if you're a single person that is in, maybe you're recently divorced or recently separated, and don't, feel like those details are kind of painful, not really wanting to share a lot of those details, you don't have to. You can say, I'm going through some things right now in my personal life. I don't feel like talking about it, or I'm not comfortable talking about it. I always go back to those I statements. So that's creating a boundary around, I'm not comfortable talking about this. This is my status, or this isn't my status. And setting a boundary. And hopefully that boundary then gives people the indication that they need to step back or back off.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a tough one, too, about people have lost jobs, right? So why aren't you working, or why can't you find a job? I would hope that people wouldn't say that. But, how do you handle that? Or vice versa, if someone's giving you tons of advice. Well, you should do this, this, and this. Have you done this? Have you done that?
Yes. So, right. Yeah. Oh, I heard you lost your job, or, I heard, you're having some financial issues. Well, why don't you try this? Or why don't you talk to my financial advisor? A lot of what we call unsolicited advice. So in those situations, what we want to do is, again, come up with something to set a limit. I'm working with someone, or I have a plan. I'm not ready to share it yet. You don't have to reveal all the information. You don't necessarily want to come off as defensive, but that's often how those statements make you feel. They make you feel defensive, like I've got to have a comeback. I don't generally suggest going on the offensive, like, aren't you going to change your job? Or I heard you had a problem, right? You don't necessarily need to go on the offense, but just coming up with some phrases, unless you do want some help and support, and someone's offering it in a way that feels genuine and open, right?
Yeah.
Well, I have some experience in finding jobs. Let me know if you'd like some help. Okay, I'll let you know. Thank you for offering. But now it opens it up so that if I want the help, I can ask for it, instead of the help being sort of fed to me in a setting or situation where I really don't want it.
And that's a good reminder for all of us. I'm sure I've been guilty of that, especially with my kids. Like, well, you should do. We should, in general, ask someone, would you like some help with that, before we just start offering, right? We got to remember that. And then you say there's really only one or two phrases that we should use to anyone we haven't seen in a long time.
Yes, and these are standard. These are open, and they're good for a lot of different things. It's, how are you doing? You look great. That's it, right? And that's like, okay, thank you. thank you, I'm doing well. Or, oh, yeah, I've had a difficult year, I'm not doing so well. And that is then, it's up to the individual to share or to not share, right? You can easily say, I'm doing fine, kind of like when, the grocery store cashier says, how are you doing today? They don't really want to know how you're doing. It's just, I'm okay, thanks for asking, right? But if you're in a setting where someone says, how are you doing? You can make the decision, I choose to share or I choose not to share. So
Yeah.
You look great. How are you doing? Are pretty nondescript, easy ways to make an opening with someone if they choose to step into it. Or just to say, you look great. How are you doing? How are things going?
Yeah.
Oh, things are going well or things are not going well. And then that creates a dialogue from there.
Yeah. There's just the idea of walking into a situation can be stressful for people. Like, what do you do if, two family members aren't getting along, but, you're all going to be at the same place?
Yeah. So how to manage conflict, right? That's part of it. And then there's always individuals that have a lot of social anxiety, may not have a full-blown social anxiety disorder, but they get very anxious in social situations. And those are the individuals I suggest that you prepare one or two things, either, I'm doing fine, or, college is going well. You have some kind of set phrases that you use. When there is conflict, I do not suggest that we manage conflict or create conflict during family gatherings, which is the same thing I usually say, let's not talk about politics at large family gatherings. Now, I'm not saying you have to put aside your political views, but if someone starts to engage in a discussion, you can say, I actually have different views on this issue, but I'm choosing not to discuss it in this setting, right? So it's you can state your belief, I have different views on this situation, but I'm choosing not to discuss it in this setting. So again, creating that boundary.
Right.
But family gatherings are not the time to solve long-standing conflicts.
So better that you just stay on your corner of the room and not even speak to the person. Just to agree that you're ahead of time, you're not going to really talk if you can't talk civilly.
Yeah, if you need to just keep space from someone or gather the support of another person in the family to say, listen, you know that so-and-so and I don't get along. Can you just kind of keep a buffer for me? Or if you see something happening, come support me. So I do think getting some support can really be helpful as well.
Yeah, so all of this is really thinking ahead of time and thinking, and I know we've done other episodes that there are no Hallmark families, so don't beat yourself up if you're worried that yours is not going to look like the ads on TV.
All families have issues, and we just have to try to find a little bit of connection or support or comfort from people around us. And that's really what I hope that the holidays are for people. It's a way to feel less isolated. It's a way to make a connection. And you might talk to that person you hadn't talked to in months and months and realize, wow, I really have a lot in common with that person. Or I really enjoyed talking to, Aunt Colleen or whoever it is, to really highlight our sense of connection to each other. But at the end of the day, be kind, say kind things, and that's what spreads peace and joy.
Right. Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? Those are the filters we're supposed to use, right? Famous filters. One last question that people have been, a lot of people have lost people, and I think people don't know the right thing to say. Should they not even bring up the person who they lost because you're worried you're going to make the person upset, or you want to say the right thing? Some people are like, oh, what do I say? I know so-and-so passed away, or so-and-so's in the hospital with a disease. And, that people are grieving, but people aren't sure what to say.
So again, that's where you ask an open-ended question. How are you doing? I know you've had some struggles recently, right? I don't like to avoid it. I don't like to pretend like everything's good when things are not good. That someone, they just got a difficult health diagnosis, or they have another loved one that just passed, or someone that's not well. How are you doing? Is there anything I can do to help you? right? So that makes you an open person, someone that they could possibly go to if they do need support. So ask it as an open-ended question. How are you doing with all the, with the grieving that you've been going through, or the loss or the change? How are you doing? How is your health right now? So asking as a question, not, not being so assumptive, but you ask an open-ended question, you acknowledge what's going on, and then you allow, if that person says, I'm fine, and they shut it down, that's their choice. But you've at least opened that door should they want to step into it.
Another prickly thing is, kids don't always behave the way that we want them to, especially in holiday situations. There's maybe too much sugar, there's too much stimulation. Some kids already may have some behavioral issues, and there's a lot of judgment. The grandparents giving stern looks, or judging the mom, or making you feel upset, or someone correcting your kid, and then they melt down even more. How do you handle those tense moments where maybe the kids are not the best at gatherings and prepping for that, and what people might say to you?
So that is where you need to put your thick skin on and, say to yourself, I know that I'm doing the best that I can in this situation. And again, I always like to find an ally in a situation. Your ally might be your spouse, your ally might be your sibling, your ally might be your parent or grandparent. Find an ally and go to that ally in advance or at the beginning of the gathering and say, listen, I'm really concerned. My kids get super overstimulated when there's a lot of cousins around. Can you kind of help me and support me? It's okay to ask for help. You don't have to manage things all by yourself. Or you and your spouse or partner kind of have a plan, like when they get out of hand, you're dealing with it first, and then I'll come in as, as the second person. Have a plan in those situations. Find an ally, have a plan just to make it a little bit better. It is my hope that we all know that during gatherings, family gatherings, which are so important for connection, that we all have a little bit more forgiveness in our heart. We've either had kids or been kids, and we know that kids do not behave perfectly, even a good majority of the time sometimes, especially at family gatherings. So have an open mind, reserve judgment, and if you have judgment, keep it locked away.
Zip it. Okay, so there's some good advice. Hello, how are you? You look great, and zip it. Remember nothing else.
Yeah. Or is there anything I can do to help you?
Yeah.
Right.
That's always the fail-safe, right? If you have an exit strategy. Oh, I think they need help in the kitchen, or I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be back.
And make sure you offer the host help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Dr. Laura Saunders from the Institute of Living, thank you so much. I hope everyone feels prepared for a little joy and how to handle a little conflict too.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and Happy New Year.
To you as well. And thank you, everyone, for being here for CURES. If you want to find more content on the cutting edge of wellness, you can look right here on the Channel 3 app. We have more episodes of CURES. You can also follow me on social media. I post them there at Kara Sundlin. Have a great day and a great holiday season.